I got pregnant in 10th grade and my parents disowned me, kicking me out of the house. 20 years later, they suddenly showed up demanding to meet their grandson. But what they saw left them completely shocked. This isn't just a story about comeuppance, it's about a mother's fury, a son's fierce loyalty, and the devastating truth that sometimes, the family you choose is the only one worth fighting for. What my biological parents saw that day wasn't just their grandson, a brilliant surgeon, but the living testament to the choices they made, choices that were about to cost them everything. Let me take you back to October 2004. I was a naive, terrified 17-year-old, standing in my parents' impossibly grand living room. Marble floors, a chandelier dripping with crystals, and in my trembling hand, a positive pregnancy test. "You're lying," my mother hissed, her voice cutting like winter wind. No daughter of mine would be so common. But a second test, then a third, confirmed it. My father didn't yell. That would have been too undignified. Instead, he walked silently to my room, returned with the expensive suitcase they'd bought for my college tours, and set it by the front door with chilling precision. "You have 10 minutes, he said, adjusting his Yale class ring. "Take what fits. Leave your keys on the table." My pleas were useless. "You're not our daughter anymore." He flipped our family portrait, the one with our forced smiles, face down. Our daughter wouldn't spread her legs for some boy and destroy everything we've built. My mother just stood by the grandfather clock, meticulously inspecting her manicure. "Don't call us. Don't come back. We'll tell everyone you're studying abroad." Owen, the boy who'd promised me forever, had already blocked my number the day I told him. His future at Stanford, his parents' lawyers, they mattered more than me or our baby. 10 minutes. That's all the time they gave me to pack up 17 years of my life. I grabbed some clothes, my grandmother's necklace they'd forgotten about, and the pitiful $227 from my jewelry box. The front door clicked shut behind me, final and irreversible, like a judge's gavel. That night, I slept in Riverside Park, huddled under the gazebo where Owen first kissed me. 3 nights later, I woke to a gentle shake. Not a cop, not a creep, but an elegant woman in her 70s, wrapped in cashmere, her eyes filled with genuine concern. "Child, you're going to freeze to death out here." Elena Rossi, walking her ancient poodle, Pierre, had found me. Curled on that cold bench, my suitcase my only pillow. Something in her broke, or perhaps, something healed. I lied, through chattering teeth, "I'm fine." But she saw the barely there bump on my belly, she knew. When I finally broke down, really cried, not the silent, rationed tears I'd allowed myself for 3 days, she sat beside me on that freezing bench and held me like I mattered. "Come," she said, her voice warm. "Pierre and I need company for breakfast." Her car smelled like lavender and leather. The heated seats felt like heaven. She drove us to a sprawling house in West Side, with a yard like a small park. 8 bedrooms for 1 widow and 1 geriatric poodle, she chuckled sadly. "I lost my daughter 5 years ago. Car accident." She was pregnant, too. The room she led me to was already prepared. A Pottery Barn crib, still assembled, sat in the corner. The closet held maternity clothes, tags still on. "This is yours now," she said. "No questions, no conditions. Everyone deserves a second chance." I whispered, "Why?" She touched a photo on the dresser, a young woman with Elena's eyes, Elena's smile. "Because Sophia would have wanted me to." That night, I slept in a real bed for the first time in 72 hours. Pierre, the poodle, curled up at my feet like a tiny, furry guardian. Elena didn't just give me shelter, she gave me a future. While my parents told their country club friends I was studying in Switzerland, I was learning to breathe again in a nursery decorated with stars. Seagar arrived during a blizzard that February, screaming and perfect. Elena held my hand through 18 hours of labor, whispering strength when I had none. She cut the cord when I asked her to. She was the first to hold him after me. "He's brilliant," she declared, though he was only minutes old. I can see it in his eyes. She wasn't wrong. Seagar walked at 9 months, read at 3, and tested into gifted programs before kindergarten. While I took night classes for my GED, then online community college courses, he absorbed knowledge like other kids absorbed cartoons. Elena owned 3 restaurants, and she started me as a hostess, then patiently taught me everything: inventory, scheduling, profit margins. "You're not just working here," she'd say. "You're learning to run an empire." When Seagar was 7, he performed surgery on his teddy bear using actual sutures he'd practiced from YouTube videos. At 10, he was devouring my anatomy textbooks. At 16, Harvard Medical School accepted him early admission. That same year, Lance Mitchell walked into Rossi's, one of Elena's restaurants. He was updating Elena's will. She insisted on adding new provisions every year since taking us in. Tall, steady, with kind eyes and terrible jokes, he made me laugh for the first time in years. "Your son's remarkable," he said over coffee that turned into dinner. "His grandmother deserves the credit." He wasn't talking about Elena, though she'd mentioned something interesting about her will, something about protecting the family you choose. Even then, Elena was planning ahead, always protecting us. Everything changed when the Springfield Gazette ran the headline, "20-year-old surgeon becomes youngest department chief in state history." Seagar's photo covered half the front page, my son in surgical scrubs, standing before the cardiac wing he'd already revolutionized. The article mentioned his full name, Dr. Sigurd Harrison, MD, PhD, my maiden name. The name my parents thought they'd buried. Within hours, the story went viral. Prodigy doctor saves 3 lives in one day. Gen Z surgeon revolutionizes heart surgery. The real-life Doogie Howser. My phone buzzed with an unknown number. I almost didn't check the voicemail. Olivia, my mother's voice after 2 decades of absolute silence. "We need to discuss our grandson." "Our grandson? Not your son? Not Seagar?" Like he was property they'd suddenly remembered they'd misplaced. The email started next, sent to my restaurant's public address. Professional. Cold. "Dear Olivia, we hope this message finds you well. Recent news has come to our attention regarding Sigurd's remarkable achievements. As his grandparents, we feel it's time to reconnect." They signed it from their corporate email, Harrison Industries, the company they protected by discarding me. Lance found me crying in my office, not from sadness, but from pure, incandescent rage. "They want him now that he's successful," I choked out. 20 years of nothing, and now they want to claim him. "What do you want to do?" he asked gently. "Make them disappear again." He pulled me close. "We can do that. But first, let me check something in Elena's papers." She mentioned provisions for this exact situation. That night, Seagar worked a 16-hour shift, saving 2 lives. He had no idea his grandparents even existed, let alone that they were circling like vultures who'd spotted gold. They started small, a reservation at Rossi's under a fake name, sitting in my section, watching me work. I recognized my mother's emerald ring before her face. She'd aged poorly, Botox fighting a losing battle with bitterness. "Good evening. I'm Olivia, we know who you are." My father set down his menu like a verdict. "We need to discuss Seagar. You need to leave." They didn't. Instead, packages arrived at the hospital. A Rolex Submariner for Seagar, a Montblanc pen set, a first edition Grey's Anatomy worth thousands. Each gift card signed, "Your loving grandparents." Seagar brought them home confused. "Mom, someone keeps sending me expensive things. Should I be worried?" "Return them," I said, "all of them." Lance intercepted their next move, a formal letter requesting grandparent visitation rights. He laughed. Actually laughed as he read it to me. "They cite established family bonds," he said, "bonds they severed with this." He pulled out a photocopy, the document they'd signed 20 years ago, relinquishing all parental rights and responsibilities. "They didn't just kick you out, Olivia. They legally disowned you and any children you might have." But they kept pushing. They hired a private investigator who followed Seagar's routine. They contacted the hospital board, introducing themselves as Dr. Harrison's grandparents, trying to get invited to fundraisers. The final straw came when my mother approached Seagar directly at a coffee shop near the hospital. "You look just like your grandfather," she said, blocking his path. "I'm sorry, do I know you?" "I'm your grandmother, sweetheart." "Your mother has kept us apart," Seagar called me immediately. "Mom, some woman claiming to be my grandmother just ambushed me. Should I call security?" "Yes," I said, always. The call came at 2 a.m. because Owen always had terrible timing. "Liv, it's me. Please don't hang up." 20 years, and he still thought "it's me" would mean something. "What do you want, Owen?" "I saw the news about Seagar. He's incredible. Our son. Now he was our son." When I was 17 and terrified, Seagar was my problem. Now that he was saving lives and making headlines, Owen remembered his DNA contribution. "He doesn't know you exist," I said. "Let's keep it that way." "That's not fair. I was 18, Liv." "My parents threatened to what? Disown you? Kick you out? Make you sleep in parks while pregnant?" Silence. "That's what I thought." "I'm divorced now," he croaked, his voice cracking. "My startup failed. I've lost everything. I just want to know him. He's my blood." Blood? I scoffed. You blocked my number when I needed you most. Your parents contacted me, he admitted, the words hanging between us like a noose. They think if I'm involved, you'll be more receptive to reconciliation. They're offering to help me financially if I can convince you. I hung up. Then I called Lance. They're coordinating, I told him. My parents and Owen. They're actually planning this together. Good, he said, which surprised me. Conspiracy leaves evidence. Forward me everything. Calls, emails, texts. Elena was very specific about documentation. The next morning, Owen sent a long email about his father's rights, copied to my parents. At the bottom, almost hidden in the signature, was the line that confirmed everything. Consultant, Harrison Industries Family Relations. They'd actually hired him. My parents hired the man who abandoned me to manipulate me into letting them near Seagar. Elena had been right about everything. Family isn't blood. It's choice. And some choices, once made, can't be undone. Now, let's see what happened when my parents decided to make their demands public. Tuesday, 3 p.m. Seagar was 8 hours into a complex pediatric heart surgery when my parents walked into Springfield Memorial's VIP lobby. We're here to see our grandson, Dr. Harrison, my mother announced, loud enough for everyone to hear. We're his grandparents, the Harrisons of Harrison Industries. The receptionist called security instead of Seagar. But my parents had come prepared. This is ridiculous, my father boomed, his voice echoing off the marble walls. We donate millions to this hospital. Our grandson is chief of surgery. We demand to see him. Visitors stopped to stare. Doctors whispered. Someone started recording on their phone. My mother, ever the performer, pulled out a monogrammed handkerchief. 20 years we've been kept from him, she wailed. We just want to meet our only grandchild. Security arrived as I did, Lance beside me. Ma'am, sir, Dr. Harrison is in surgery. Then we'll wait, my father declared, planting himself on a leather bench like he owned it, which, given the Harrison Industries plaques on the walls, he probably thought he did. The head of security looked at me. Mrs. Mitchell, how would you like us to handle this? My mother's tears stopped instantly. Mitchell? You were married? You gave our grandson another man's name. He never had your name, I said quietly, my voice steady. You made sure of that when you signed him away. The gathering crowd murmured. My father's face went purple. How dare you? The doors opened. Seagar emerged, still in surgical scrubs, the baby he'd just saved being wheeled to recovery. He looked at the scene, security, strangers with phones out, 2 well-dressed elderly people causing chaos. Then at me. Are these the people who've been stalking me? Yes, I said. Then I want them removed. He didn't even look at them. Now, my parents didn't leave. Instead, they called Channel 7 from the hospital parking lot. Within an hour, news vans surrounded the main entrance. My mother had changed into a St. John suit. She'd brought costume changes for her ambush. My father stood beside her, the grieving grandfather in his Harvard tie. We're heartbroken, my mother told reporter Jennifer Chin. 20 years ago, there was a misunderstanding. We were in shock about our teenage daughter's pregnancy. We reacted poorly, but we've been trying to reconnect, to make amends, and we're being denied access to our only grandchild. She dabbed her eyes with that same monogrammed handkerchief, careful not to smudge her makeup. Dr. Harrison is a medical pioneer, the reporter prompted. You must be proud. Incredibly proud, my father declared, though he'd never seen Seagar save a life, hold a patient's hand, or stay awake for 30 hours to perfect a procedure. The Harrison family has always valued excellence. It's in his blood. In his blood? The blood they'd rejected when it was growing inside me. What would you say to your daughter now? Jennifer asked. My mother looked directly at the camera. Olivia, sweetheart, we forgive you. We just want our family back together. Please don't punish Seagar for our mistakes. They forgive me. They forgive me? The segment aired at 6. By 7, it had 50,000 views on their Facebook page, the one my mother ran like a lifestyle blog. The comments poured in, family is everything. Let them see their grandson. Why so cruel, Olivia? Lance shut his laptop. They just made a critical error. Going public? I asked. No, he said, a glint in his eye. Claiming they forgive you. That's admission of wrongdoing. And we have the documents that show exactly what they did wrong. The hospital's chief administrator called me in for a friendly chat the next morning. Olivia, this situation is becoming complicated, Dr. Morrison said, fidgeting with his Mont-Blanc pen. The Harrisons have donated $12 million over the years. The board is concerned. Concerned about what? The optics? Perhaps one supervised meeting would resolve everything. Would you meet with people who threw you away like garbage? He shifted uncomfortably. It's not my decision to make, but Seagar's position. Are you threatening my son's job? No. Just considering all angles. At Rossi's, customers suddenly had opinions. Family is complicated, one regular told me while I refilled her wine. But forgiveness is divine, don't you think? Even my staff whispered when they thought I couldn't hear. 20 years is a long time to hold a grudge. A grudge. As if being disowned while pregnant was equivalent to a forgotten birthday. Seagar came home exhausted, dark circles under his eyes. Mom, I had 3 surgeries delayed today because reporters kept trying to get into the OR wing. I'm sorry, baby. I'll fix this. It's not your fault, he said, collapsing on the couch. But maybe if we just met with them once? No, I could tell them to leave us alone in person. Seagar, I said, my voice firm. They signed papers stating you don't exist to them legally. He was quiet for a moment. Can I see these papers? Lance had been waiting for this. He pulled out the folder he'd been carrying for days, ready for when Seagar would ask. This is what they signed, Lance said, the day they kicked your mother out. Seagar read slowly, his surgeon's hands steady despite the words that should have shaken anyone. October 15, 2004, Seagar read aloud. We, Robert and Margaret Harrison, hereby relinquish all parental rights and responsibilities to Olivia Harrison and any children born or unborn. His voice stayed clinical, like he was reading a patient chart. But his knuckles were white. They signed this while you were pregnant with me? Yes. And this line, we acknowledge no financial, emotional, or legal obligations. They wrote that. Their lawyer did. They signed it. He set the paper down carefully, the way he handled scalpels. Tell me everything, Mom. From the beginning. So I did. The 10 minutes, the suitcase, the park bench, Owen vanishing. Everything I'd protected him from for 20 years spilled out in my kitchen while Lance held my hand. Owen Blake is my biological father? Yes. The tech entrepreneur who just declared bankruptcy. I stared at him. You knew. I'm not stupid, Mom. I can use Google. Owen Blake, Stanford graduate, dated Olivia Harrison in high school. He pulled out his phone, showing Owen's LinkedIn. He's been viewing my profile weekly for 6 months. My brilliant boy. Why didn't you say anything? Because you didn't. I figured when you were ready, you'd tell me. He looked at the papers again. So, Grandma Elena was your real grandmother? The only one who wanted you. Yes. She left me something, didn't she? In her will? That's why Lance keeps checking documents. Lance nodded. She left you everything. With conditions. Your biological grandparents can't touch a penny if they abandoned you. How much? 15 million, plus the restaurants. Seagar laughed. Actually laughed. They're fighting this hard for money they already lost? They don't know they've lost it yet, Lance said. But they're about to. They chose Bernardino's, the most pretentious restaurant in Springfield. White tablecloths, waiters who judged your wine pronunciation. Thank you for coming, my mother said, as if she'd won something by getting me here. My father pushed a leather folder across the table before our water arrived. Let's skip the pleasantries. Inside is a contract. Harrison Industries letterhead, corporate seal, the works. 5 million, he said. Placed in trust for Seagar immediately. Another 5 when he joins the board. All we ask is a public reconciliation. A family photo for the announcement. You want to buy us? I asked, incredulous. We want to invest in our legacy, my mother corrected, adjusting her pearls. Seagar is a Harrison. He should benefit from that name. The name you took from me? Which we're offering to restore. The IPO launches next month. Harrison Industries, 3 generations of excellence, tests well with focus groups. Focus groups. They'd focus grouped our reconciliation. And Owen? I asked. My father's jaw tightened. Mr. Blake is a separate matter. Is he? Because he told me you're paying him as a consultant. My mother's mask slipped for just a second. That's a misunderstanding. Lance had been quiet until now. Is it? Because we have emails suggesting otherwise. Something about a finder's fee. You've been monitoring our communications? My father stood. That's illegal. No, Lance corrected. Owen forwarded them to Olivia. See? Actually, he's not very bright. They exchanged a look, the same one they'd shared when deciding my fate 20 years ago. The offer stands, my father said, tossing $300 bills on the table, but not for long. As they left, my mother turned. That boy deserves to know his real family. He does, I said. That's why he'll never know you. Lance worked late that night, laptop open, documents spread across our dining table like evidence in a crime scene, which essentially they were. Olivia, come look at this. The email chain went back 3 months, before the first news article about Seagar. My parents had been planning this. From Robert Harrison at harrisonindustries.com to owenblake24@gmail.com. Subject, consultation agreement. Mr. Blake, per our discussion, you'll receive 10% of any assets recovered from the reconciliation with our daughter. Your role, establish paternal connection with SH, leverage for maternal cooperation. They're calling my son assets recovered? I whispered. Keep reading. Owen's response made me sick. Happy to help. Olivia always was emotional. If I push the right buttons about missed father-son moments, she'll cave. Suggest we coordinate pressure. You from grandparent angle, me from father's rights. $500K up front seems reasonable for my involvement. He's selling access to Seagar, I whispered. This email chain is evidence of conspiracy to commit fraud and harassment, Lance corrected. But there's more. He pulled up Owen's LinkedIn. 3 days ago, he'd messaged Seagar, "Son, I know your mother has poisoned you against me, but I'm your father. I deserve a chance. Your grandparents agree. We could do great things together. The Harrison medical legacy combined with Blake innovation. Think about your future." Seagar didn't tell me because Seagar reported him for harassment. LinkedIn banned him. He also, Lance smiled, sent Owen's bankruptcy filing to Harrison Industries Board. Turns out they don't like being associated with failed entrepreneurs who owe the IRS $2 million. They're still paying him? The board voted yesterday to terminate all consultant contracts. Your father doesn't know yet. Sometimes karma needs a good lawyer to help it along. Lance unlocked Elena's safe with a combination she'd made me memorize. July 23, 2005, the day Seagar was born. She updated this every year, he said, pulling out the leather-bound document. But this provision never changed. He flipped to page 7, paragraph 4, highlighted in yellow. Should any biological family member who previously abandoned, disowned, or rejected my chosen daughter, Olivia Harrison, or her son, Sigurd Harrison, attempt to claim relationship or assets after achieving success or recognition, they shall be permanently barred from any inheritance, property, or financial benefit from my estate. She knew this would happen. She planned for it. Look. He clicked play on an iPad. Elena's face filled the screen, recorded just months before her death. If you're watching this, Elena said, her voice still strong despite the cancer, then Robert and Margaret Harrison have crawled out from whatever rock they've been hiding under. Hello, Mr. and Mrs. Harrison. Yes, I know exactly who you are. I hired investigators the day I met Olivia. I know about the 10 minutes, the suitcase, the family portrait you turned face down. My throat tightened. Even dying, she'd protected us. You threw away a treasure, Elena continued. I found her. She became my daughter in every way that matters. Seagar became my grandson. And you? You're nothing. Ghosts. Signatures on a paper that ensures you'll never hurt them again. The video cut. This is the beautiful part, Lance said, pulling out another document. The original abandonment papers your parents signed. I'd seen copies before, but the original felt different, heavier. Their signatures, bold and clear, like they were signing a business deal. They didn't just kick you out, Lance explained. They legally emancipated you and simultaneously relinquished all parental rights. But here's what their lawyer apparently didn't explain. Or maybe they didn't care to understand. He pointed to Clause 6. This relinquishment extends in perpetuity to any offspring, born or unborn, of the aforementioned minor. In perpetuity, forever. They can't claim grandparent rights because legally, Seagar isn't their grandson. They made sure of that 20 years ago. They could have contested it within the first year, but after that. He smiled, ironclad. I thought about my father's Harvard law degree hanging in his office. My mother's insistence on reading every contract. They'd known. They'd wanted me gone so completely that they'd signed away their future, too. There's one more thing, Lance said. If they continue harassment after being shown these documents, we can file for a restraining order. Criminal harassment charges. They could face jail time. They'd never risk that. Their reputation. Exactly. So, we give them one chance to walk away quietly. If they don't take it, we go public with everything. At the gala. At the gala. 500 witnesses, media coverage, everything they cared about, reputation, image, legacy, destroyed by their own signatures. For the first time in weeks, I smiled. Elena really thought of everything. She loved you, Lance said simply. This was her way of proving it forever. The Springfield Memorial Annual Gala was in 3 days. 500 guests, full media coverage, and Seagar giving the keynote about family, legacy, and healing. We invite them, I said, holding the pearl shimmer invitation. All 3 of them. Lance raised an eyebrow. You're sure? Elena left us the weapons. Time to use them. I wrote each invitation by hand. Dear Mother and Father, please join us at the Springfield Memorial Gala to receive your inheritance from the Elena Rossi estate. Formal documentation will be provided. Olivia. Dear Owen, your presence is requested regarding Seagar's patrimony and your parental status. Legal clarification will be provided. Olivia Harrison Mitchell. They'll think they've won, Lance said, sealing the envelopes. Let them. Seagar reviewed his speech one more time. You want me to mention Grandma Elena but not them? Mention your real grandmother, the one who loved you. And when they stand up to claim credit, that's when Lance presents the documents. We'd reserved a table front and center for them. Table 1, impossible to miss, impossible to leave without everyone noticing. The hospital board will be there, Lance noted. Harrison Industries investors, everyone they care about impressing. Good. I called the foundation coordinator. Yes, we're announcing the Elena Rossi Foundation for Teen Mothers. $5 million initial funding, 10 medical school scholarships. Everything was in place. 20 years of pain transformed into purpose. What if they don't come? Seagar asked. They'll come, Lance said, pulling up the RSVPs an hour later. Their egos won't let them miss it. All 3 responded yes within minutes of receiving the invitations. They think they've won. Perfect. The best defeats come when victory seems certain. The Springfield Memorial Ballroom glittered with old money and new hope. Crystal chandeliers, white orchids on every table, and my parents at table 1, holding court like royalty. My mother wore vintage Chanel, the suit she'd saved for special victories. My father kept checking his Patek Philippe, probably calculating when to make their grand gesture. Owen sat beside them, fidgeting in a rented tux that didn't quite fit. Ladies and gentlemen, the MC announced, please welcome our keynote speaker, Dr. Sigert Harrison. My son walked to the podium in scrubs. Not a tux, not a suit, but the uniform he'd earned saving lives. The audience murmured. My parents' smiles tightened. Good evening. I'm here to talk about family, Seagar began. Not the family you're born into, but the family that chooses you when you need them most. My mother preened, assuming he meant them. 20 years ago, a 17-year-old girl was thrown out of her home for getting pregnant. She slept in parks. She ate from vending machines. She had nothing except the life growing inside her. The room went silent. My father's hand froze on his champagne glass. Then Elena Rossi found her. A widow with no obligation to help. No reason to care except that she understood what family really meant. Elena became my grandmother. She gave my mother shelter, dignity, purpose. She gave me life. On the LED screen behind him, Elena's photo appeared, 20 feet tall, smiling, radiant. Everything I am, Seagar continued, I owe to 2 women. My mother, Olivia Harrison Mitchell, who sacrificed everything for me, and my grandmother, Elena Rossi, who proved that love isn't about blood. It's about showing up. My parents were no longer smiling. Tonight, I'm announcing the Elena Rossi Foundation for Teen Mothers, Seagar said, his voice carrying across 500 silent guests. $5 million in initial funding. Housing, child care, education, and hope for young mothers abandoned by their families. The screen changed. Elena's video message began playing. Hello, my dear ones. Elena's voice filled the ballroom. If you're watching this, then my grandson Seagar is doing exactly what I knew he would. Changing lives, healing hearts, being the man I always knew he'd become. My mother started to stand. My father grabbed her wrist, pulling her down. Family, Elena continued, isn't about DNA or last names or inheritance. It's about presence. When Olivia needed family most, where were the Harrisons? When Seagar took his first steps, spoke his first words, performed his first surgery, where were they? The camera panned across the crowd. Every eye was on table 1. I leave everything to my real family, Elena said. To Olivia, my daughter by choice. To Seagar, my grandson by love. And to those who abandoned them, she looked directly into the camera. I leave you the truth about what you threw away. Seagar returned to the podium. I want to thank my family for being here tonight. Mom, he looked at me, and Lance, who showed me what a father really is. My mother shot to her feet. Where are your grandparents? Where is your blood? The entire ballroom turned to stare. No, Seagar said calmly into the microphone. You're strangers who share DNA. There's a difference. How dare you? My father started. Mr. Mitchell, Seagar said, I believe you have some documents to present. Lance stood, folder in hand, walking toward the podium with the measured steps of coming justice. This is ridiculous. My father charged toward the stage, his face purple with rage. We are his grandparents. We have rights. Security moved forward, but Lance raised a hand. Let them come. My mother grabbed the microphone from a nearby table. This is our grandson. They've poisoned him against us. We made one mistake 20 years ago. One mistake. I stood, my voice carrying without amplification. You gave me 10 minutes to pack. You turned my portrait face down. You signed papers, disowning me and my unborn child. The crowd gasped. Phones appeared, recording everything. That was different, my mother shrieked. You were a disgrace. Pregnant at 17. I was your daughter. Owen tried to slip toward the exit. 2 security guards blocked his path. Mr. Blake, Lance said into the podium microphone. Don't leave yet. This concerns you too. I don't. I'm not. Owen stammered. You're not what? Lance asked, his voice sharp. The biological father who abandoned a pregnant 17-year-old? Or the consultant being paid by the Harrisons to manipulate their daughter? My father lunged for the podium. You can't prove, actually, Lance smiled, clicking a remote. I can. The screen lit up with emails. The conspiracy laid bare in 40-foot letters for 500 witnesses to read. 10% of assets recovered, Lance read aloud. Push the right buttons about missed father-son moments. She always was emotional. My mother's Chanel suit couldn't hide her shaking. My father's Harvard pin couldn't restore his dignity. Owen looked like he might vomit on his rented shoes. Shall we discuss? Lance continued. The legal documents you signed 20 years ago, the ones that permanently severed all rights to Olivia and her children? The ballroom held its breath. Lance clicked again. The abandonment document filled the screen. Every word magnified, every signature clear as day. October 15, 2004, he read, We, Robert and Margaret Harrison, hereby relinquish all parental rights and responsibilities to Olivia Harrison and any children born or unborn. The document zoomed in on their signatures. Bold. Deliberate. Undeniable. This extends in perpetuity, Lance continued. Forever. Irreversible. You didn't just disown your pregnant daughter. You legally disowned every generation that would come from her. We didn't know, my mother started. You didn't know? Lance pulled up another document. Mr. Harrison, you have a Harvard law degree. You knew exactly what you were signing. My father's mouth opened and closed like a fish drowning in air. But that's not all, Lance said. Let's discuss what happens when you abandon someone, then try to claim their inheritance. The crowd leaned forward. Even the waitstaff had stopped to watch. 20 years ago, you threw Olivia away. Elena Rossi found her, loved her, raised her grandson as her own. And when Elena died, she left very specific instructions about blood relatives who abandoned family. That money should be ours, my father shouted. We're the biological grandparents who signed away all rights. Look at the screen, Mr. Harrison. Look at your signature. That's your handwriting saying Seagar doesn't exist to you. Channel 7's camera captured everything. Jennifer Chin held her microphone toward the stage, broadcasting live. Every person in this room, Lance said, every camera, every phone, they're all witnessing the truth. You abandoned a pregnant teenager. You signed away your grandchild. And now you want to profit from his success. The disgust in the room was palpable. People actually turned their backs on table 1. Now, Lance said, let's discuss Elena Rossi's will. The screen changed to the official probate documents, complete with gold seals and notarizations. Article 7, Section 4. Any biological family member who previously abandoned, disowned, or rejected Olivia Harrison or Sigurd Harrison shall be permanently excluded from all inheritance, property, or financial benefit from this estate. She can't do that, my mother screamed. She can, Lance said. And she did. The estate is worth $15 million. The restaurants, the properties, the investments, all of it goes to Olivia and Seagar. You, Mr. and Mrs. Harrison, received nothing. But more importantly, Lance clicked again, showing a video timestamp. Elena left you a personal message. Elena appeared on screen again, but this was different footage. She was looking directly at the camera, directly at my parents. Robert and Margaret Harrison, Elena's voice rang out. I know you're watching this, probably in a room full of people you're trying to impress. Good. Let them all hear this. You're the worst kind of cowards. You threw away a treasure because you feared judgment. I found that treasure. I polished it. I helped it shine. My mother collapsed into her chair. You had 10 minutes to pack your daughter's life. So, I'm giving you the same. 10 minutes to leave this gala, leave this city, and leave Olivia and Seagar alone forever, starting now. Lance looked at his watch. That's 8:47 p.m. At 8:57, if you're still here, I filed the restraining orders, the criminal harassment charges, everything. The ballroom was silent, except for the ticking of the massive clock on the wall. 9 minutes, Lance announced. My parents looked at each other, then at the exits, then at the hundreds of phones recording their humiliation. Mr. Blake. Lance turned to Owen, who was trying to shrink into his rented tux. Let's discuss your consulting agreement. The emails returned to the screen. Lance read each one slowly, letting the words sink in. Olivia always was emotional. Push the right buttons. 500,000 upfront seems reasonable for my involvement. That's taken out of context. Owen stammered. Is it? Let's see the context. Lance clicked through the entire chain. You approached the Harrisons. You offered to manipulate the mother of your child. For money. You called your son an asset to be recovered. Seagar stepped back to the microphone. Mr. Blake, I want you to know something. I've known who you were since I was 15. I looked you up. I found your Stanford graduation photos, your wedding announcement, the birth announcements for your other children, the ones you didn't abandon. Owen's face went white. I watched you build your life while my mother built hers alone. I saw your startup announcements, your Forbes mentions, your perfect family Christmas cards. And I felt nothing. You know why? Because Lance Mitchell taught me to play catch. Lance came to every surgery observation. Lance is my father in every way that matters. You, Seagar's voice hardened, are a sperm donor who's now bankrupt and desperate enough to sell access to the son you never wanted. The IRS already knows about your bankruptcy fraud, by the way. We forwarded them your emails about hiding assets. Someone in the crowd laughed. Then another. Soon Owen was surrounded by the sound of derision from people who'd once respected the Blake name. 8 minutes remaining, Lance announced. Mr. and Mrs. Harrison. Mr. Blake, I suggest you leave now. My father stood, trying to salvage dignity from disaster. This isn't over. We'll sue. We'll. The ballroom doors opened. A process server walked in, followed by 2 police officers. Robert Harrison, Margaret Harrison, Owen Blake. The server held up official documents. You're being served with emergency restraining orders. He handed them each a packet while 500 people watched. These are temporary orders, effective immediately. You are prohibited from coming within 500 feet of Olivia Mitchell, Sigurd Harrison, or Lance Mitchell. No contact through any medium. No calls, texts, emails, or third-party messages. The hearing for permanent orders is in 2 weeks. You planned this, my mother hissed at me. No, I said, standing tall. You planned this 20 years ago when you signed those papers. I'm just finishing what you started. The officer stepped forward. Folks, you need to leave the premises now or you're violating the order. This is assault, my father shouted. This is consequence, the officer said calmly. Something I understand you're not familiar with. You have 5 minutes before we arrest you for violation. My mother grabbed her Hermes bag like a life preserver. You'll regret this, Olivia. The only thing I regret, I said, loud enough for everyone to hear, is spending 17 years thinking I needed your love. They walked toward the exit, Owen trailing behind them. At the door, my father turned one last time. That boy is our blood. Blood? Seagar called out. You bled my mother dry and left her for dead. Elena gave her a transfusion of real love. That's the only blood that matters here. The doors closed behind them. The entire ballroom erupted in applause. The applause died down as Seagar returned to the podium, this time with me beside him. Ladies and gentlemen, he said, let me tell you what we're really here to celebrate. The screen showed a mock-up of a building. The Elena Rossi Center for Young Mothers. $5 million in initial funding. 10 full medical school scholarships for children of teen mothers. Housing for 20 families at a time. Childcare during classes. Job training. Everything my mother needed 20 years ago and found in one extraordinary woman. I took the microphone. Every young mother who comes to us will get what I got from Elena. Not judgment, but support. Not shame, but dignity. Not abandonment, but family. The first scholarship recipient is here tonight, Seagar announced. Maria Santos, 17, graduating valedictorian while raising her daughter. Maria, would you stand? A young woman rose, holding a baby, tears streaming down her face. The ovation was thunderous. Maria will attend Harvard pre-med this fall, full ride with on-site childcare, I said, because that's what Elena would have done. Lance joined us on stage. We're also announcing that Harrison Industries Board has voted to redirect their annual charitable giving. The $12 million they donated to this hospital over the years? It's being matched by an anonymous donor for the Elena Foundation. I knew that anonymous donor. It was the combined savings of every family Elena had helped over the years, paying it forward. In 1 year, Seagar said, we'll have helped 50 young mothers. In 10 years, 500. In 20 years, when some other scared 17-year-old gets pregnant, she won't sleep in a park. She'll call us. The standing ovation lasted 5 minutes. But the sweetest sound was the silence from table 1, now empty forever. 3 weeks later, Lance showed me the business news. Harrison Industries stock dropped 30%, he said. The board called an emergency meeting. Your father was voted out as CEO. The scandal had spread beyond Springfield. Family values hypocrites ran in the Wall Street Journal. The 10-minute parents trended on social media for days. Someone leaked the security footage of them being escorted out. It had 12 million views. They're selling the house, Lance continued, pulling up the real estate listing. The Westfield mansion, listed far below market value. They need the cash for legal fees. Their lawyer had tried to contest the restraining orders. The judge not only upheld them but made them permanent after seeing the evidence. What about Owen? Worse. His ex-wife's lawyer subpoenaed our emails. Turns out hiding money from bankruptcy court while owing $200,000 in child support is a federal crime. He's facing 3 years. I felt nothing. Not satisfaction, not pity. Just nothing. They moved to Arizona, Lance added. Scottsdale. Your mother's sister took them in. They're living in her guest house. From a 7-bedroom mansion to a guest house. From society darlings to exile. The best part? Lance smiled. Remember their church? The one where your father was an elder? They were asked to find a new place to worship. Apparently, abandoning pregnant teenagers doesn't align with their values. Every institution they'd valued more than me had rejected them. Are you okay? Lance asked. I'm free, I said. For the first time in 20 years, I'm completely free. That night at dinner, Seagar said, the foundation received a donation today. Anonymous. 50,000. We all knew who it wasn't from. 6 months later, we gathered for our weekly dinner, the tradition Elena started and we'd never stopped. Seagar carved the roast using the technique Elena taught him when he was 12. So, I saved 3 lives this week, he said casually, like he was discussing the weather. Show off, Lance teased, pouring wine from Elena's collection. The youngest was 4 months old, Seagar continued. Her mother was 17. She reminded me of someone. He looked at me with those eyes that still saw wonder in the world despite everything. I told her about the foundation. She cried. Mom said she'd been sleeping in her car for a week. Not anymore, I said. She moves into the center tomorrow. This was our family. No DNA tests required, no blood certificates needed. Just presence, consistency, and choice. Elena's portrait hung where the TV used to be. We'd rather look at her than any screen. Fresh orchids sat beneath it. Replaced weekly, her favorite. I'm getting married next month, I announced. Lance nearly dropped his wine. You're supposed to let me propose first. Elena always said I should speak up for what I want. I pulled out the ring I'd bought him. So, Lance Mitchell, will you make this official? Seagar laughed. Really laughed, the way he did as a child. Mom, you just proposed at dinner over pot roast. Elena would approve, Lance said, sliding the ring on. Yes. Absolutely. Yes. We toasted with Elena's Waterford crystal, the one she saved for celebrations. In the candlelight, I could almost see her smiling. This was family. Not perfect. Not traditional. But real. Chosen. Permanent. And somewhere in Arizona, in a guest house, 2 strangers I once called parents were learning what I'd known for 20 years. Some choices can't be undone, but better choices, those can be made every single day.